For generations, the mighty barbarians observed a tireless vigil over Mount Arreat and the mysteries veiled beneath its slopes. 20 years ago, the sacred mountain was torn asunder, reducing the barbarian territories to a smoldering wasteland. Arreat's defenders scattered into the winds, burdened by guilt and devoid of the fierce pride that had once burned in their hearts. Yet, one among them searches for hope. Through the evil that has taken hold of Sanctuary, he sees a means to rekindle the barbarians' culture and give them a reason to fight and a reason to live. The Barbarian is a one-man army. Possessing immense physical strength, he can storm through legions of demons, rending every foe in his path with pure brute force.
I will not be denied!
Only in the midst of combat does the Barbarian truly feel alive. As he deals or takes damage, he builds up fury, a primal energy that causes his attacks to become increasingly vicious and devastating. When his fury reaches its limit, he becomes an unstoppable force of nature, shredding his adversaries with whirlwind attacks and ripping the ground apart with violent quakes.
You cannot stand before me!
The Barbarian can weather savage attacks that would kill lesser mortals. His natural resilience is fortified when he dons monstrous plate armor and shields. In rare cases, when he is overwhelmed by insurmountable odds, he can turn the tide of battle with ear-shattering war cries that reignite his fury or reinforce the defenses of nearby allies. Although the Barbarian might appear to lack finesse, he is renowned for his weapons expertise. This peerless combatant can choose to dual wield, cleaving his way through demons with two types of melee weapons. Or he can focus his might into colossal two-handed swords, axes, and other armaments. With the wealth of combat knowledge at his command, no force can withstand his might. Strong and noble, fearless and resolute, the Barbarian is a warrior to his core. Only if you have the iron will to dominate the battlefield with sheer size and ferocity can you hope to take on the honorable quest of the Barbarian. Ever since the Burning Hells became aware of Sanctuary's existence, demonic forces have sought to corrupt mankind. To break the will of mortals, demons butcher the weak and reduce countless villages to smoking ruins. Those who survive are forever scarred by their horrific experiences. One of these unfortunate victims witnessed the slaughter of her family firsthand. Left alone and afraid, she was taken in by other survivors who had sworn to rid the world of the creatures of hell. These demon hunters, as they are called, forged the young girl into a fearless weapon to exact revenge upon the dark forces that prey on the innocent. The demon hunter's intense training has prepared her to face evil in all of its forms. Well-versed in ranged weaponry and tracking, she can hunt down and annihilate Hellspawn with an array of crossbows and explosive devices. In combat, the demon hunter's thirst for vengeance is without equal, but she must keep her anger in check to defeat enemies effectively. Her killing sprees are fueled by hatred, a constant supply of rage that drives her offensive attacks. When utilizing her more defensive skills, she draws from discipline, a precious source of energy that replenishes slowly. Survival depends on striking a balance between hatred and discipline, so the demon hunter must overcome threats with strategic cunning. Her ranged weapons can launch entangling shots, that slow enemies so that she can easily defeat them. When opponents close in on her, the Demon Hunter can vault to safety and fire volatile grenades to decimate her foes. The Demon Hunter's arsenal extends far beyond these feats. Using carefully hidden traps or devastating sentry turrets, she can ambush enemies with lethal efficiency. In dire times, she can envelop herself in shadow power, increasing her movement and firing speed to such a degree that even the most resilient demonic opponents cannot escape her wrath. If you have the courage and tenacity to track down and exterminate Hell's most formidable minions, then perhaps it is your destiny to purge evil from the world of Sanctuary as the Demon Hunter. The tales of Ivgarod's monks are steeped in mystery and legend. It is said that these reclusive holy warriors endure grueling training for years on end at the wondrous Floating Sky Monastery, forging their bodies and minds into weapons of righteousness. For the monks, there is no greater honor than to follow the will of their 1,001 gods, even if it means death. Now, as the forces of darkness rise across the world, Ivgarod's ruling patriarchs have dispatched one of the monk order's greatest disciples to purge the evil at its source and restore balance to the corrupted lands of Sanctuary. The monk is a weapon of the gods themselves. He is a peerless martial artist who can pummel single foes with rapid-fire strikes or annihilate throngs of demons by unleashing waves of pure energy through force of will. Combat is essential to the monk's lifelong pursuit of physical perfection. With his fists alone, he can vanquish the most heavily armored threats, but his mastery extends to swords, staves, and other armaments as well. The monk's melee prowess is bolstered by his spirit, an inner reserve of power that can be used to perform devastating attacks, like the stunning Wave of Light and the fabled Seven-Sided Strike. The monk can also replenish his drained spirit by landing successive blows against enemies. Another ability of this outstanding warrior is the creation of mantras. By harnessing his spirit, the monk can generate torrents of holy energy around himself and his allies. These powerful mantras can mend wounds and fortify defenses while simultaneously weakening nearby foes. The monk forgoes heavy armor, relying instead on his superhuman agility to evade danger. With lightning-quick reflexes, he can deflect vicious attacks and escape his adversaries with the grace and swiftness of the wind.
You are defeated!
Devout and wise, fierce and unrelenting, the monk symbolizes a union among body, mind, and the world at large. If you have the courage to brave intense close-range combat and the discipline to seek perfection in all things, then perhaps your destiny is to walk the righteous path of the monk.
This fight is over!
Few outsiders have witnessed the Umbaru tribal feuds that rage in the dense Taganze jungles. These ritualistic wars are not for lands or gold, but for living captives to offer up as sacrifices. The Umbaru perform these ceremonies to honor the spirits of the unformed land, a veiled reality that the tribe's revered witch doctors can experience. Recently, one of the most devout of these warriors rebelled against his own spiritual leaders, believing that they had succumbed to corruption. Although banished for his ways, this witch doctor is unwavering in his faith in the spirits. He has embarked on a journey of truth and honor, that will bring him face to face with the cursed demonic forces that threaten Sanctuary. The Witch Doctor wields supernatural forces, assaulting the bodies and minds of his enemies via crippling diseases, potent alchemy, and ancient rites. Channeling these black magics consumes mana, a mystical pool of energy that slowly replenishes over time. To expand his mana supply, the Witch Doctor can don fearsome tribal equipment imbued with magic, allowing him to hurl an almost endless barrage of spells and incantations against his foes. While the Witch Doctor can cause direct damage to others, some of his most powerful skills are far more subtle. Horrify, for example, causes nearby enemies to flee in terror, while Mass Confusion blurs the line between friend and foe, turning even the staunchest allies against each other. Yet these curses pale in comparison to the Witch Doctor's ability to summon hideous creatures from the Netherworld. By drawing from his mana reserves, he can plague the land with poisonous toads, command savage beasts to rend the flesh of his opponents, and release a swarm of fire bats to set his enemies ablaze. Most terrifying of all is the Gargantuan, a massive abomination that can obliterate the most heavily armored demonic forces. The Witch Doctor is a fearsome combatant who will give no quarter to his foes, but he also hungers for knowledge about the world and its mysteries. His quest to fight evil in honor of the spirits is a noble one, and he will not rest until he sees it through to the end. If you are drawn to shadowy arts, grim magics, and the camaraderie of foul minions, then your calling might lie with the Witch Doctor. The study of magic has been an integral part of Sanctuary's history since the birth of civilization. At the great Ishari Sanctum in Chaldeum, some of the most devoted mages share their ancient arts with pupils from around the world who display an affinity for magic. One such prodigy was placed under the tutelage of the Sanctum's mages to hone her skills. Yet her lack of restraint and unquenchable thirst to study forbidden magics drew the ire of Ishari's instructors. Calling herself a wizard, she has set out to pursue her quest for knowledge and forge her own path in the world. This rebellious youth believes it is her destiny to triumph over the dark forces now rising across Sanctuary.
I'm just warming up.
The wizard is fiercely talented in various forms of magic. Her broad expertise allows her to manipulate the very fabric of reality and bend time, space, and arcane energies to her will. To perform her stunning feats, the wizard relies on arcane power, a wellspring of energy that continually replenishes itself. Although this power regenerates at a fast rate, the wizard has learned to wield it carefully, for she can only invoke a limited number of spells in rapid succession before her reserves are completely drained.
How does that feel?
In battle, the wizard can inflict tremendous amounts of damage on entire groups of enemies at once. For example, her blizzard spell pummels large areas with jagged ice shards, while Disintegrate channels a focused beam of pure energy that incinerates everything it touches. When the wizard does burn through her arcane power, she can become an easy target. Her survival rests on avoiding enemies by warping time and space, or teleporting herself out of harm's way. Conversely, she can choose to forsake defense entirely and transform into a mighty Archon, a being with unlimited arcane power who can lay waste to hordes of foes.
Your grave awaits!
Traditional mages might see the wizard as undisciplined, but even they would admit that the powers she wields are astounding. If you have the skill and brilliant intellect to harness these unstable magics and turn them against your enemies, then it might be your fate to follow the path of the wizard.
I am unstoppable.
Long ago, hundreds of faithful warriors set off into the eastern swamplands on a sacred mission, where they seemed to vanish without a trace. They were the Crusaders, an order of devout men and women dedicated to saving the Zakarum faith from the corruption of Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred. The Crusaders swore an unbreakable oath to scour the world for a key to Zakarum's salvation, and to remain true to it until they died. Every one of them took on an apprentice who would be forged into a weapon of the light. When their master fell, the apprentice took up their name, their shield, their weapon, and their cause. Now a lone Crusader marches west, drawn by the sight of a star falling upon New Tristram. His path has changed, but his noble quest and unyielding faith remains. The Crusader faces evil head-on, annihilating his foes with the power of the light. Armed with hallowed weapons and impervious shields, he can easily dispatch single threats or deliver sweeping blows against groups of enemies.
Like chaff before the wind.
His every strike is driven by wrath, a fervor that grows steadily and truly ignites when the Crusader smites the forces of darkness, allowing him to unleash his mightiest abilities.
By the light be damned!
He can sear those that stand against him with heaven's fury, or knock them off their feet with a brutal shield bash. This divine warrior is a powerful ally to other heroes. When he charges into the fray, he can taunt the legions of evil, forcing them to attack him, or cast his holy judgment to root them in place.
My faith is rewarded.
He can also strengthen allies, granting them additional battle prowess by pronouncing the sacred laws of Zakarum. Clad in faith and steel, the Crusader is able to stand toe-to-toe with any abomination the burning hells can muster. His goal is nothing less than the eradication of all demons, and he will use any means necessary to ensure they never return.
Make your peace while you can.
The life of a Crusader is fraught with peril. Not everyone has the fortitude to walk the path. But if you possess the courage to stare at the abyss without flinching, your crusade may take you from the darkest pits of the burning hells to the shining peaks of the high heavens. Perhaps you will find what you seek along the way.
The crusade marches on.